And they talk about those three different levels, how you get a mentorship from someone who is ahead of you in whatever, whatever niche you're looking at that time. And then you have your peer mentors, who are all kind of at the same point of the journey. And then you have the people you mentor.
It's really hard to coach ourselves looking in the mirror, and I'm the same as you. I'm a teacher now, as you are, and I'm always going to be a student. I used to say that I'm going to learn until the day I die, but now I don't even believe that. When I die, I'm probably going to learn more. It's going to be like, whoa, like
Yes.
full on open, right? So it is quite amazing. And when you bring that into your life, you do collapse timeframes because you don't have to, make those mistakes, and you don't have to have those things happen. And then even it's interesting you brought up your relationship, because that's what I found too. Like at first I invested in business, but then I started, as that became like no problem, like you learn so much and business is going, then I started investing in my personal things, my wife and I, and our relationship, the way that I'm a father, like start investing in like how to be a better father, like even going to conferences I never would have thought of, like, school conferences, and, how do we teach our children better, and like things, so it's like all of it, like, why would I not get a coach? Like whatever. So now whatever I want to know, it's like, well, who's the best at that? Okay. Like, okay,
Yes.
I'm going to go hang out with you. And, so I get, one big question I get, so it's always good. And I answer this in different ways, but it's always good to hear different voices. How do you find those mentors? Like, have they just popped up on your doorstep, or what do you tell others when because probably you've been asked this too, like, how do you find those folks that are the right ones for you?
Absolutely. It's so funny as you're talking, I was thinking I do the same thing. Like I just hired a personal trainer, but I don't think of her as a personal trainer because I said, I want you to help me with my holistic health practices. So, and I gave her a list. I'm like, I'd love someone to help me meditate daily, do meditation and visualization, and then do movement and, tap into myself. And so it was like this past Tuesday, we're sitting there and I'm like, and I had that moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like 9 a.m. I'm sitting in my home in our new place with this woman who's basically giving me a private meditation and visualization class. She's telling me like, visualize this and do this. And so yeah, so I'm with you. Like you can really create whatever. And so for me, it's been in terms of how I find these folks, in the beginning, when I was earlier on in building my business, learning more about who I was, I sought them out. So it was for me seeing who are the leaders in my space. At that time, I was measuring my progress according to revenue. So that was the first measuring stick for me. Okay, who's saying that they're making 20 million, 30 million a year? Who's 10 steps ahead of me? And then I would look at second qualifier, what's their lifestyle like? Do I love like where they're living or how
Yeah.
they're living and who they're being? So that was what I would look for at first. And then are they a great teacher and educator? Are they able to translate the results they get into a blueprint that I can follow? So that was like the first way I would find them. And it was just if they popped up in my feed in an ad, right? And I would just go check out their website and see
Right.
if it made sense. And then I'd find if they have a mastermind or coaching. And what I'm finding is that as I get later and more advanced in my business, now I'm attracting these people. So it's either people who I've worked with previously and we're just morphing the way we work together because my needs have changed, or it is that friend from college who I haven't spoken with in a decade sending me a DM saying, hey, I'd love to talk to you about your financial planning and da da da. And me brushing them off, 3 times over a year, and then finally getting on the phone with them and then blowing my mind with
Yeah.
how they're able to analyze a case study and what I'm doing in my business, and me saying, okay, you're my business manager. And then it's attracting my new head of marketing who has this incredible vision. And it was knowing him. I've known him for like 4 years, right? But just reconnecting with him. So lately it's been attracting those people and just putting it out. Sometimes I'm looking or just them coming to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's noticing, I notice like our awareness. There's an old saying, and I don't know where it comes from, but they say when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I do
Absolutely.
believe that. And like it comes back to that thing that it's always there. It's like the pineal gland in the brain. It's kind of like a filter as well. And there's different parts. Like I'm not totally schooled on how all the brain works, but what I do know about this mechanism is that and it's another part of the brain, I'm forgetting the name, but it allows us to basically, like, if you've ever seen a car and you've never seen that car before, but then the rest of the day you'll see it like 5 more times, right?
Hmm.
Then that's always been there, but our brain wasn't filtering for that, so it comes, and
Yes.
so that's how becoming more aware, it just naturally happens. And then feeling that it's real, like when that person comes, being ready to say, okay, just give it a go. And I think it is important to say, and then I wanted to parlay into another question here, but I basically when I looked at it, like I couldn't afford my first coach, like I remember that moment. I just got to say this for those, if it's like a money thing, but in my 20s, one thing that I was embarrassed about, I lost $4 million. Like, so I earned and lost $4 million. So by 31, I felt like a loser. I was like, what an idiot. And I had other friends in Silicon Valley, and, being in the San Francisco Bay Area, you've got, all these things happening, and we're measuring our own worth by what everyone else is doing. And not everyone does this, but I definitely got caught in that.
Yeah.
And then the reason I bring this up at this point in this conversation is that then at 31, not by me picking, I got dragged to an event and I met my mentor. And then that decade, looking back now, being in my 40s, I invested $500,000 in myself. Now at 31, I couldn't sign that check. There was no way I could say, oh yeah, I'll spend $500,000 on myself right now. That's like crazy talk, right? I barely could
Hmm.
hire that coach. Like literally I had payroll that week and I needed every bit of the dollars. I had to borrow $2,000 just to get through the week after hiring the coach. But I thought to myself, man, I'm locked up. I created a jail for myself. And you know what? If I've not figured out how to get in. So I just made a commitment to myself. I said, either this coach is going to help me, or I'm just going to, if I collapse this business, then it wasn't meant to be. Because at that point I was kind of sick of it. Like I said, I felt like a loser. I was like, I need help. I need help. And I wish I could have said I figured it faster and I didn't go through all that pain. But, all of us have our journey. And for me, I waited too long. If I would have gotten, and now I've gotten asked to speak in front of youth or like high schools. One high school, a teacher asked the last question. He's like, Steve, last question. If you could go back to your high school self, what are 2 words you would tell yourself? And I was like, get mentors. And I was like, oh my gosh, did I say that? I like said it so fast. I'm like, get mentors, get mentors. That's it. I was like, no, that's the real deal. You got to just find people in your life. So it's, it's amazing that you've done that. I definitely found that. And in all aspects of our life, and that you're opening it up to your relationship. I think those are all great things just to echo. And then the fact that we're both teaching now. So now, not only that, we are being mentored and we are mentoring. And I think that's so important too, because I meet coaches and they're like, I am a coach. I don't need a coach. And I'm like, whoa, like right away, okay, yeah, I see you. uh,
Right. And they talk about those 3 different levels, how you get mentorship from someone who is ahead of you in whatever niche you're looking at that time. And then you have your peer mentors who are all kind of at the same point of the journey. And then you have the people you mentor. So yeah, it's important to have, for me, to have that balance of all 3 for sure.
it's so important. And I kind of, one couple things of just like words, I guess. Like I think of mastermind as that peer level, right? Because you're masterminding, you're kind of
Mhm.
like helping each other. And then when I look at
Yes.
mentorship, then I look at it as like, that's the person that's just showing me where they've gone. They're kind of ahead of me. But, I love
Yes.
the levels of learning as well. Like there's a couple different ways people look at learning. And this one came to me really big and I teach everyone this, especially when you're an entrepreneur, is that if you want to learn something, read about it, right? If you want to get good at it, do it. And if you want to master it, teach it.
Teach it.
It's
Yes.
and so that comes full into this. Hey there, I want to give you something really big. It's called Clear Path to Customers. It's the way that we get the right language to get the right client. I like to call them your wow clients, so that you can have more results, more revenue, more raving fans, and more referrals. And I want to give this to you absolutely free. And all you have to do is go to stevenapolitan.com to check it out, or you can look at the description here. We'll put the details there. As always, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom.